The Kaltharan Grand Market sprawled across 3 kilometers of the station's lower decks, a chaotic symphony of 1,000 species bartering, arguing, and trading beneath flickering neon signs. Merchants from across the galaxy peddled everything from Venusian silks to consciousness transfer pods, their voices a cacophony in dozens of languages that the station's translators struggled to parse. Maya Chen navigated the crowded aisles with practiced ease, her worn jacket and scuffed boots marking her as just another freighter crew member on shore leave. She'd been in the market for 2 hours, spending her meager wages on supplies for the next run to the outer rim. 3 credits remained in her account, barely enough for a meal. That's when she heard it. A sound so faint it was almost lost beneath the market's din, a wheeze rattling and desperate. Maya stopped, her hand instinctively moving to the small medkit at her belt. Years working salvage ops had given her an ear for distress signals, even organic ones. She found the source in a dingy stall wedged between a weapons dealer and a spice merchant. The vendor, a Skrell with mottled green skin and too many eyes, barely looked up as she approached. In a rusted cage no bigger than a shipping container sat what could only be described as a dragon. It was small, perhaps the size of a large dog, with scales that might have once shimmered like starlight but now hung dull and cracked. Its wings, torn and folded at awkward angles, twitched with each labored breath. One amber eye cracked open as Maya knelt before the cage, and in that gaze she saw something that made her chest tighten: intelligence, pain, and resignation. "How much?" Maya asked, her voice steady despite the anger building in her gut. The Skrell's eyes swiveled toward her, all 6 blinking in sequence. "For that? 3 credits. Been dying for days. Should have dumped it already, but figured someone might want the scales for jewelry." Maya's jaw clenched. She'd seen a lot in her 5 years working the space lanes. Cruelty wasn't unique to any species. But there was something about the casual dismissal in the vendor's voice that ignited a fury she hadn't felt in years. She transferred the credits without a word. The Skrell shrugged, already turning away. "Your loss, human. Thing'll be dead before you reach your ship." Maya ignored him, carefully lifting the cage. The dragon weighed almost nothing, its body frighteningly light. As she carried it through the market, she became aware of eyes following her. Dozens, then hundreds. The crowd's noise began to fade, conversation dying in ripples that spread outward from her position. By the time she reached the market's center plaza, silence had fallen like a blanket. Maya set the cage down gently and opened the door. The dragon didn't move, too weak even for that, so she reached in, slowly, carefully, and lifted the creature out. Its scales felt like ancient parchment under her fingers, fragile and cold. "I know you can understand me," Maya whispered, cradling the dragon against her chest. "I don't have much, but I've got a med kit and a warm bunk on my ship. It's not much, but it's yours if you want it." The dragon's eye found hers again. For a long moment nothing happened. Then it began to glow. Soft at first, like embers in darkness, light bloomed beneath the dragon's scales. The glow spread, intensifying until Maya had to squint against the brilliance. Heat radiated from the creature. Not the heat of fever, but something clean and vital, like standing near a star. The crowd gasped collectively. Maya heard weapons powering up, felt the market security systems activate, but she didn't let go. The dragon's body began to shift in her arms. Bones cracked and reformed. Wings unfurled, scales regenerated with a sound like breaking glass in reverse. It grew, doubling in size, then tripling, until Maya had to set it down or be crushed by its expanding mass. Within seconds, the creature that had been dying now stood before her in full glory. A dragon nearly 3 meters tall, scales gleaming like liquid mercury, wings that seemed to contain entire nebulae in their membranes. Its eyes burned with ancient fire, and when it breathed, the air shimmered with power that made Maya's teeth ache. The market remained frozen in silence. The dragon lowered its massive head until its snout nearly touched Maya's face. When it spoke, its voice resonated not just in the air but in her bones, in her blood, in the very fabric of reality around them. "You are the first in 3,000 cycles to see past dying flesh to the life beneath. The first to spend your last coin not on yourself, but on another. The first to offer shelter with no expectation of return." The dragon's gaze swept across the assembled crowd, merchants, pirates, nobles, and vagabonds alike. "Let it be known across all systems and in all tongues. This human, Maya Chen of Earth, has earned the gratitude of Ashkaroth the Eternal. Her enemies are my enemies. Her allies are under my protection. and any who would do her harm will face the judgment of fire that cannot be extinguished and fury that cannot be quenched. The dragon's attention returned to Maya, and impossibly, it smiled. You offered me a bunk on your ship, I accept. Though I should warn you, I snore, and I require significant quantities of coffee. Maya felt a laugh bubble up from somewhere deep in her chest, part shock, part relief, part pure absurdity. Coffee I can do, but you're handling your own laundry. As the dragon threw back its head and laughed, a sound like thunder and church bells, the market slowly came back to life, but everything had changed. Word would spread through the galaxy at the speed of quantum communication. The humans, those strange beings from a backwater planet, had a quality that defied all logic. They saw value where others saw waste. They offered kindness where others offered cruelty. And sometimes, just sometimes, that made all the difference. Maya Chen shouldered her empty pack and gestured toward the docking bays. Come on then. My shift starts in 3 hours and my captain's going to have questions. The dragon, Ashkaroth the Eternal, fell into step beside her, wings folded, head held high. Behind them, the market exploded into chaos as vendors and customers alike tried to process what they'd witnessed. But Maya didn't look back. She'd spent her last 3 credits on compassion, and somehow, impossibly, she'd gotten the best deal of her life. As they walked through the station's corridors toward Bay 47, Ashkaroth spoke quietly. Your species confuses the galaxy, you know. You're weak, short-lived, and possess no natural weapons. Yet you conquered your world and reached for the stars. Maya shrugged. We're stubborn, and we don't like seeing things suffer if we can help it. Probably not the most logical trait. No, the dragon agreed, its voice warm with something that might have been affection, but perhaps logic is overrated. They reached the airlock to Maya's ship, a battered freighter called the Wandering Star, and she palmed the access panel. As the door hissed open, she glanced back at her new companion. Welcome aboard, she said simply. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, the galaxy shifted, adjusting to a new reality. Humanity had arrived, and nothing would ever be quite the same.